All right, Kyle. I'm wondering, I've got a question for you. So, as we're doing projects and as we're doing ventures, it always comes up as how best do you prioritize on a project? And really, you've instituted at City, something called the GEM framework. I'd love to know a little bit more about the GEM framework.
hmm Yeah, great question. So I did a workshop with Gibson Biddle. Oh man, was it months ago? I don't even know the time. Used to be the senior VP of product at Netflix, and he kind of introduced this model to me. It seemed like it was something popular at Netflix, and the GEM framework, it stands for growth, engagement, and monetization. And he positioned this as a tool to use because it always identifies differences on the team at the highest, most strategic level. So
Mm,
we're not necessarily talking about the RICE framework right now or ways to prioritize your backlog. We're more talking about how you start to find your mission and purpose as a team and just get everyone starting to point that boat, that metaphorical boat, in the same direction. So when we host workshops, I like to ask the audience or the group of the customers, if they're all on the same team, what is your biggest focus right now? Is it growth, engagement, or monetization? And it's always so much fun because the answers are never the same. It always calls out key differences and sets up the path kind of for the rest of that workshop, right? Of like, well,
mm,
most people usually it's thirds. It's split into thirds. A couple of people say growth, a couple of people say engagement, a couple of people say monetization. If you're lucky, a group, an early startup group will just be split between growth and engagement, and then you don't have to make fun of the monetization people and say, well, we have to wait for that. That's the easy one we're going to wait for. Which the other two we should focus on? That seems mean, but the whole point is to kind of highlight the idea of what are we really focused on, and how does that then inform the
mm.
conversation we have around the items in our backlog?
Yeah. No, that's good. It reminds me of it's kind of mapped to pirate metrics almost, right? The GEM framework is. It's
That's
just
right.
when you're talking about, looking at the top where it's acquisition as a first pirate metric, and you're talking about engagement, right? Engagement's right in the pirate metrics, and you've got monetization, that's revenue in the pirate metrics. So it's almost like mapped, and I wonder if there's, some of that goes in with the GEM framework of people thinking they're in different parts, they're optimizing different parts of the pirate metrics. That's an
Yeah,
interesting thought.
it
So
is really interesting, and that's why I said that rude comment about people picking monetization maybe too soon. But it speaks to that funnel of we have to think about acquisition, activation, and then we start thinking about
yes,
retention and revenue. And I
yes,
think I think the other fun part about this framework, I think, is that the words are so ambiguous. So at least there's constructive conversation about, well, what do we mean when we say growth? Like it's almost inevitable that someone will bring
mm,
that question up. What do we mean when we say engagement? And I think that starts to lead to a productive conversation around, well, what is that? How do we measure it? Which then just perfectly segues into pyrometrics.